So, how successful was the Coronation weekend? Has it left you feeling proud of the nation, the Commonwealth and the monarchy? Well, joining me to discuss this is the historian and political commentator, David Oldroyd-Bolt. David, can I first ask your opinion about the protesters? We were talking about it earlier, and is it right that some protesters were sort of arrested before they'd actually done anything?
Well, it's a very tricky question because from the public safety point of view, it seems that there was a risk. If these protesters were planning to throw rape alarms in the road, given the number of horses involved with this, that you could have made the horses bolt, which would have caused great damage not only to property but to people. So it's a very tricky question because I believe in the absolutely fundamental right to free speech, free expression and free protest. However, that comes with a responsibility on the part of protesters to ensure that their fellow citizens aren't harmed. If it turns out that there could have been a risk of harm, I think the police were right to act in this instance.
Very interesting. Now, when it comes to the monarchy, you know, there have been some recent polls that have suggested that the younger generation in particular would be quite happy if it were to be abolished. Does that mean that Charles is going to be the last monarch?
I don't think that's necessarily the meaning at all. I think what it means is that the younger generation is disconnected from the institution, as it is from so many institutions in this country, because it is not part of their educational culture. And that's a failing on the part of schools, it's a failing on the part of parents, and it was, I believe, an intention of the last Labour government for that to be the case. In many, many instances, I think the prospectus of Gordon Brown and Tony Blair was to ensure a sort of bifurcation between generations so that it made it easier for Labour to gain an everlasting majority. I think we're just seeing an aspect of this now.
So why is the monarchy so important, do you think? Why should it be embedded into school curricula?
My view of the importance of the monarchy is that it is fundamentally the safest form of head of government, of head of state that you can find. If you look at, for instance, the UN Index of Best Outcomes and of Health, 21 countries in that, 11 of which are constitutional monarchies. And if you look at the top 20 developed nations in the world, 10 of those are constitutional monarchies. I think this is a system that works well and benevolently. I would ask those who would seek to replace it, with what would you replace it that could be so guaranteed to be disinterested, to be impartial, to have no political bias within it, to be able to be a warning voice, a guiding voice, and as the King has done as Prince of Wales, to be a real mover in charity and in culture, but yet it is in its fundament absolutely disinterested.
But your critics would say that, well, it's embodying privilege, it's embodying the notion of division where division shouldn't exist.
I think that's exactly the opposite of what it embodies. It embodies duty and obligation. It embodies a sacral nature towards the work that is necessary as head of state. I think that this is the fundamental point about monarchy, and we saw this in the coronation service yesterday. It is about duty and obligation. It's about service. It's a very different concept from that which most people, I think, in the West now hold, where it is about rights and about privileges and about what they expect.
That's very well put, David. Thanks so much for joining us.